Hello, I'm Curtis Broderick from Epicraft, and today I'd like to show you an example of how to use the recently added Data Sources interface in Epicraft. Before, if you wanted to get some data from a database table other than that of the current page's variables, you'd have to write your own requests. With the Data Sources interface, it is now just a question of selecting the desired varsets and variables. To start, here's a diagram of a fictive project that I've created. We'll go in and see how to use the Data Sources interface to make it work. The fictive project is a little study where the study subjects, patients, go to a center to have physical exams, and the examiner fills in some basic health information for each visit. There's a relationship between the patient varset and the visit varset of 1 to n. One patient can have n visits. I'll have a home page where the examiner starts from, which will include a list of the 10 most recently added patients. This implies that I'll have to make a data request to the patient data table. So we'll be using the data source interface on the home page. Notice also that on the visit page, I'll include the patient's last name, first name, and date of birth. Since these are not variables of the visit page, I'll need to make a data request to get that information. Let's see how it should work when we're finished. I'll log in and am presented with a list of the 10 most recent patients, even though this page is not the patient varset. I can add a new patient or select Edit to open a patient record. This is the first of 2 patient pages with the variables of the varset patient. I'll go to the second page where I can fill in more information or modify the information about the patient. I'll return to the first page and add a visit, where I can fill in the exam information for a visit varset. Notice the patient information on the top of the page. We have patient data even though we are on the visit page. Let's go into the editor and see how this all can be done. First, we'll go to the data sources of the user's homepage and see that the only data query is for the varset accueil, or home. Every page that is made by Epicraft always includes the principal data query to get the values of this page's variables. This column shows all the variables it will return in the request. The next column, Control, allows us to determine how the data will be returned. And finally, the Structure column allows us to set up joins and conditions and to personalize the request. We'll go and add a data query to this page to get the patients. This data request will be just a plain database request to a varset. We'll choose the varset we want, patient, and give this request a label. With this new data query to the varset patient, we'll give it a technical name, les patients, and start adding the variables we'd like it to retrieve for us. Creation date, surname, first name, date of birth, and sex. Let's tell the request how we'd like the return data ordered. We'll choose by creation date and then descending, DESC, so that the first value is the most recently created patient record. And then we'll say that we want it to fetch us 10 values at a time. That's it. We just made a data query for patients on the user homepage. We need to display the data, so we'll use a bulk component and place a table widget in it, and we'll say that we want it to show us the results of the data query, les patients, that we just made. You can stop the video and take a closer look at the table widget if you wish. Let me go in and enter a bunch of fictive data into the patient page. Now that we have some data in the database, let's go to the user homepage and see if it works. There we go. The accueil or home page has 2 data requests, one for the varset accueil and the one we just added for the varset patient. Next, on our visit page, let's add the patient's name and date of birth on top of the page so that we're sure we're entering visit data for the right person. We'll open the Data Sources interface to see the default request for all the visit variables. We'll add another data query. Here now, we'll take advantage of the relationship that was previously created between the patient table and the visit table. Since there's a relationship between patient and visit, we'll choose the option Relation and then choose the specific relationship. Let's name this query. Next, we'll give this query a descriptive technical name, and then we'll choose the variables from the patient table that we'd like to show as a page header: surname, first name, and date of birth. Since there will only be one result, we won't need to touch anything in the control column. Notice that in the query, Epicraft automatically created a condition which says, only retrieve the patient record where the ID of the patient is the same as the patient ID variable in the visit record. Let's close the data sources now and create a header on our visit page with the patient info. I'll make a group and add a variable. Notice that in the properties panel of the variable there's a new field, data source. Because there's more than the one default data query, this option is now available. We'll select the data query and the variable we want. Naturally, these will be read-only variables. And I'll also add the first name and date of birth variables. Let's publish this and take a look. Sure enough, the data query gets the name information. For the sake of completeness, it is possible to write a custom data query like before. Let's open up this page's data source again. I'll create a new data query, and this time I'll select free. This is where you enter the XML manually. There are two models to show the general way a request is constructed. Finally, I'd like to show you another use of the data sources interface. Remember in my second page of the patient-visite, we asked the question if the patient was pregnant? That question, of course, was conditioned on the response to the variable sex on the first page. Let's open up the data sources of page 2, and we'll see that it looks normal. The default data query asks to retrieve all the values for the variables of this page. The variable sex, though on page 1, is still part of the patient-visite. By clicking on the variable search bar, we see the variable sex and can add it to the default query for this page, and then be able to condition the question pregnant based on its value. That's it, the new data sources interface. It allows you to make data queries from any page to any other table of variables, including specific related tables of variables where Epicraft will create a condition to retrieve only the related data for the current record. And we saw that when a page has more than the one default data query, the Variable Properties panel will allow you to select and display the value on the page. You can find out much more about personalizing the data queries in the technical documentation on the EpiDocs website here. I'm Curtis Broderick. I'll see you at EpiConcept's next Voozanoo video tutorial.